Welcome to Kind Curiosity, where we explore those who have the audacity to be kind. My name is Felicia. On this episode, I traveled to Bradford, Ontario, Canada for an interview with Nicole Callender. Unfortunately, there were a lot of audio issues with this episode. Thus, this introduction and the outro have been recorded after the fact. But please don't let that discourage you from listening to the episode. Nicole is an awesome person, and I want you to know who she is and what she stands for. Enjoy. Nicole Callender is someone I met in Brantford, Ontario, Canada. I met her through a mutual friend. Nicole started an organization called Friends for Kindness. This organization was started because her daughter, Caitlin, has Williams syndrome. So I asked Nicole to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her story.
It's a pleasure. My name's Nicole Callender. I live in Bradford, Ontario, and I founded an organization called Friends for Kindness. So January 5th, 2018, I did a little Facebook video for like literally 40 people. I only had like 40 friends at that time, and most of them were family. I said, hey guys, if you can like mail her birthday cards between January and July when her birthday is, when all these milestones are happening, she'll be excited to get mail. So 2 days later, our Prime Minister of Canada came, to Hamilton, just down the road.
Wait,
Yeah,
the Prime Minister?
the Prime Minister of Canada. So there was thousands of people, and only, like, 5 people got chosen to ask the Prime Minister some questions. It was a town hall, and my friend, of course, got chosen, and he said to the Prime Minister, "Sir, like, my friend's daughter, they're asking for birthday cards. Can you sign one?" And he did, which was shocking because he doesn't sign birthday cards, but he did for us. So then the news are like, "Well, who's the girl that got a birthday card from the prime minister?" So the news showed up at our house and wanted to see this card. Yeah, it was fantastic. But then with the news, it just ended up all these other news networks picked it up and it went all around the world. Um, so then about a week later, I get this knock on my door and then these 2 men are on my porch, and they're like, "What is this?" They're like, "It's mail. We're from the post office." And they're like, "There's a lot of mail on your postman, like, it's too much for them to deliver." And I'm like, "Oh," and I explained the video. And I said, "It's probably gonna die down in a week, like, literally everybody else send the birthday cards now, right?" He's like, "Well, there's 5 bags full of birthday cards at the post office." It didn't die down, and we ended up getting 6,000 birthday cards from 34 countries, every state in the US, every province and territory in Canada. And then I started getting messages on Facebook saying, "Did she get my present?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, people are sending presents in these cards. Now we have to open all of them, right?" So I started a Facebook group called Kindness for Caitlin so that we could thank people. We opened a few cards every day. We thanked people. Um, the point where people were like every day waiting for these videos, which I thought were boring because Caitlin can't read. So it was literally like, "Hey, happy birthday, Caitlin. Hey, happy birthday, Caitlin." So that was great. And then celebrities started emailing us saying, "Hey, do you want to come to our concert? Or do you want, or autograph pictures?" And so Caitlin was becoming a celebrity at the time in her own right. We went to Scotland, the country by England, and somebody stopped us in the mall and recognized Caitlin and said, "We just sent you a birthday card." It was crazy. But then all of a sudden, I started getting messages on this Facebook group from families saying, "My kids have never been invited to a birthday," or like, "I know how Caitlin was feeling because they're sad they're not getting these milestones." And I still hadn't decided what I was gonna do for Caitlin's 18th birthday, which was in July. It was coming up quickly. So I thought, "You know what? I'm gonna rent a park in Brantford, Ontario, and I'm going to say, if you've never been to a birthday or you want to have a birthday party, come and we're gonna call it an unbirthday and we'll celebrate everybody. So we'll just have one big birthday party for whoever wants to come." And we had probably 250 people come from all over, like, some drove up from the United States, some, like, 6 hours away from up north, and we had, like, 250 kids and adults that had never been invited to a birthday, and we celebrated all of them, and the city of Brantford was so amazing. They're like, "We wanna be involved in this." And then the news came to this, and that went viral, and then I started getting calls from, like, Seattle saying, "Hey, "Hey, can you do that on a birthday party?" Like, here. And I did recognize that there was a need for friends to be celebrated and have that sense of belonging in the community. So that after that birthday party, I founded Friends for Kindness, and my mission was to create social connections for individuals who struggle with, that sense of belonging in our community.
So I'm, let's go back to those 6,000 birthday cards.
Sure.
Did you eventually end up opening all of them?
We did. So we had 14 tax file boxes full of birthday cards, like, they went up to the ceiling. So what I ended up doing is because I could not realistically keep 14 file boxes of birthday cards, I ended up getting a heart-shaped hole punch, and I took the cover of each card and I punched a heart shape out of it. So I have just the covers of the cards, and I'm eventually gonna put all those hearts into, like, a big poster for
Okay.
Caitlin. I'm gonna glue them onto a poster for her.
Okay. So when she got the first card, what was her reaction?
Oh, it wasn't like it was exciting. She's like, "I even know, like, my friend, I can tell you exactly that first card, those beginning cards, like, I remember them so vividly from, like, 2018." And she was excited. She's like, "Oh, good," but she doesn't read, so she was like, "This is exciting." It wasn't until, honestly, when she started getting that sense of belonging in our community, when the community started embracing her,
Mhm.
that it really meant a lot to her. Yeah.
I love that. Now she still does the party.
We do the parties. Well, we had to stop during COVID, of course, but then over COVID to connect our friends because they were more disconnected because they didn't have people driveway visiting or Zoom calling them. So we started a Circle of Friends program
Mhm.
where they meet once a week online and they hang out like they're at a coffee shop. And we have two ladies who are lovely who facilitate every Wednesday night, and they just hang out for an hour every Wednesday on Zoom. So the Zoom call is great because they can meet from all over Ontario. They don't have to be in Brantford because they're just on Zoom, right?
Right. So does she consider herself having friends now?
Yes, Caitlin thinks she's still the celebrity 10 years later, and she pretty much is. Everybody knows Caitlin. My name is no longer Nicole, it's Caitlin's mom.
Okay. So that make you feel like as a parent, knowing because I can't imagine my girls like, I don't have friends.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. To be honest, when I've never looked at Caitlin as Caitlin. She has Williams syndrome. That's her disability is
Mhm.
Williams syndrome. And Williams syndrome has a spectrum of cognitive levels. So there's lots of individuals that can read and write.
Mhm.
Not and there's Caitlin who can't read or write and is probably lower cognitive, but she's very highly social. They're highly social. So it's hard when your daughter's highly social and feels like an 18-year-old, but everybody looks at her at like a 5-year-old because she can't read or write. It doesn't, know 2 plus 2 or whatever that looks like. But I've still never looked at Caitlin like Caitlin with Williams syndrome. It's just it's Caitlin. It's just like you get into this routine that you don't even really notice disability half the time because you just do it, right? Grade 12 was a tough year because there was a lot of reminders about, hey, like you get these automatic phone calls from the school saying, hey, grade 12s, don't forget your grad pictures. Hey, grade 12s, prom tickets are on sale.
Mhm.
Hey, grade 12, put your applications in. And then you open social media and you see all the kids that she grew up with posting pictures of their acceptances. And so they're all moving forward in their life. Like they're going to the next stage of adulthood and Caitlin's staying in the same stage that she was probably in kindergarten, to be fair, right? So I think that hurt more than the actual like her saying I have no friends because I'm pretty good at like doing stuff to include Caitlin. I think it was just the reminders of the things that she would never have in life, right? The things that she was missing out on. That was a tough reminder that year.
Uh,
Yeah.
how was she diagnosed? When was the diagnosis?
Not until she was like 16 months. Now it's pretty common to be diagnosed for because it's a missing chromosome. So they do like chromosome testing when babies are born, but it wasn't then. So there was a lot of she has a sister that's a year older. I have another daughter that's a year older. And, not to compare your children, but there was a lot of differences. Like Caitlin wasn't sitting up at a year old. She wasn't, doing all these milestones that she should have reached even at some point by her first birthday. She had a doctor that was following us, and he was dismissive, and, yeah, and like, it was just very frustrating. I was very young when I had her. I was in my 20s.
Mm.
It was tough because I really had to grow up because now I'm advocating to people who are like my parents' age, and I was being dismissed partly because of my age, partly because I'm a girl, and partly because I wasn't as educated as the doctor that I'm
Mhm.
speaking to. There was a lot of barriers. And I was dismissed so often. And finally, somebody came up to me at a shopping mall, ironically, and it said, "Does your daughter have Williams syndrome?" And I'll be honest, I was angry. I'm like, why is a stranger coming up to me asking if my daughter's disabled? Like, who does that? Right? I get it now as a mom who's been in this system and advocating for 25 years. The special needs community is so small and it's so isolating and it's so disconnecting, and people just don't know our world.
Mhm.
So we're always looking for people to be in our world so that we're not alone, right? And people can validate us. So that's where she was, but I was not in that world yet. So it was a tough call, like for somebody to come up and say that to me. But I went home because I'd never heard of Williams syndrome, and I Googled it. And Google 26 years ago was just so basic. Like, there wasn't social media back then or like, I couldn't go on Facebook groups back then, right? I just had Google. That was it. And I Googled Williams syndrome, and all the pictures look like my daughter because they do have similar facial features. So just by looking at somebody, you most often can tell if they have Williams syndrome
Okay.
because of their facial features, like their smiles and their eyes and everything else. So it looks like Caitlin. And so I went back to that doctor and basically demanded blood test. She had the blood test, and sure enough, she was diagnosed and said, "Yes, your daughter has Williams syndrome." So it wasn't a surprise. I knew that was coming, and it was a relief because now I wasn't losing my mind. Like, she was disabled, but it was also probably the hardest day of my life having that confirmation because then all the hopes and dreams that you have for your children, it's like you might as well just said my daughter had died that day. Which, you know what, if I could tell any parent listening to this, feel all those emotions because they are valid. Like, there is so much change when you find out your child has a disability. Your life is not going to be the same, but I'm also 25 years into this, and now my life is so fulfilled because I had a daughter, and I feel like I'm my authentic self because I had a daughter with a disability. I don't think I would be who I am today if without all of this experience, the good and the bad, right?
Look what you've done.
Yeah, she had to grow up. I have my oldest, and I also started over, and I have 2 younger ones, and the dynamics are very different. My oldest, because they're only 12 months apart, grew up really fast, and I ended up getting divorced from their dad. It's hard, very hard to keep a relationship together when you have so much needs, and, I get it. We were young, but, I was a single mom to both my girls, and my oldest grew up really fast. I never needed her to. We were never without. We were never struggling, but she always kept, like, cleaning the house at the age of, like, 9 and without me asking. And then she was always, like, she was just growing up really fast. So when she was 12, I actually had to get her a big brother and sister so that she had somebody to take her out to be a 12-year-old because I was a little concerned about how fast she was growing up. But so she was wonderful. And then you have my sons who are like, "Oh, Caitlin's disabled?" I don't even know. It's just Caitlin. But to be fair, if you have a 25-year-old sister and you're 12, the 25-year-old sister is, like, more like your mother's age, right? Rather than they just notice Caitlin as
Yeah.
Caitlin, right? So,
You know, and I love the fact that, you say they don't see that. They just see Caitlin. Well, that's their sister.
yeah,
You just
for
see her
sure.
as her sister, and you just see it as your daughter. So you
100%.
don't see, quote unquote. I don't like to say disability. I like to say differently able.
Oh, I like that too.
Yeah,
That
you
is
have a differently able daughter,
yes.
and you don't see it. That's your daughter. That's your
Yeah.
child. So
Yeah.
that to me, kudos to you
Thank
for
you.
all of that. So the Friends for Kindness and the Circle of Friends, you told me how you got those going, but how have they become how much has it grown?
A lot, which is hard because,
Yeah.
it's just basically me and a few friends that run Friends for Kindness. So
Okay.
and we're run 100% on volunteers and donations. So the more bigger we get, the more we have to fundraise. And it's tough times, right? It's the economy is not the greatest right now, but we manage. The community supports us. So in the very first birthday party, we had 250 people.
Mm.
The second year in 2019, we had 4 birthdays around Ontario, so people wouldn't have to travel so far. So we had about 800 people in around Ontario we celebrated. But then COVID hit and we lost the momentum. So the goal was just to keep our friends connected. And that's where Circle of Friends came. So people didn't know exactly, like, remember what we were up to. We just knew we had friends that we were connecting together. And then in 2021, we had our a birthday party back again, and it's grown since then. So I think probably in 2021 we had about 300 people, We had 2 parties that year. And then or we had a few parties that year anyways, and then we decided just to focus more on Brantford and having it here so we could have a bigger and better party rather than spread our resources all over. And, last year we had over 1,000 people come to the unbirthday party. So I suspect and it's gone up every year, so I suspect we'll probably have even more than that this year. It's also weather related, but the weather was gorgeous, and it was hot last year, and we had over 1,000 people. But even a couple years ago, it was rainy, and we still probably had close to 600 people come in the rain.
Well, and I was just gonna ask, so those are always outside?
They're outside. We do have an indoor space, but we use that for the sensory quiet because we do have all different needs that are coming to this party, so we do have a quiet sensory spot, but,
Mm.
yeah, it's mostly outdoors.
Wow. So where does the party I'm going to tonight, what is that connected to?
Well, so we realized, not like a couple years ago now, this is the 2nd year we've been doing we so we realized lots of lessons have been learned through these unbirthday parties. So I'm gonna break it down a little bit. The unbirthday parties, a lot of people will ask me, "Why are kids so mean? Like, why don't they invite people to birthdays?" Nobody's mean. I think what's happening is they avoid. They avoid the child that has needs because they're afraid that I don't know how to feed them, or maybe they won't know how to interact with them. So they avoid them. They're just like, if I don't invite them, I won't have an awkward situation. So for the birthday parties, we invite the whole community. Like it's free for everybody. Like it's not just individuals with disabilities. Anybody can come because it's a great opportunity for the community to see how much fun our friends have, even if they use a computer to talk or a wheelchair to get around or
Mhm.
whatever different needs they have, our community can see how they accommodate themselves. So they're learning to like include our friends. And at the time that they're being included, our friends are actually being celebrated and feel like they have a sense of belonging within that community. So I'm bringing our friends into the community and I'm bringing the community to our friends during the birthday. But what I realize is that our friends don't really a lot of our adults and teens live with aging caregivers. Caregivers that are too old to take them out and do things with them. They're 80 or 70 years old. Like the last they were that by 8. They don't want to go out to a concert or whatever that looks like. Um, and a lot of like programs are like Monday to Thursday. They're not on weekends. So I decided that I would have a dance on a Friday night once a month so that they're getting out like adults on a Friday night and they're hanging out with friends. So another social connection for them so that the aging caregivers have a respite night to themselves and our friends all get to hang out and a dance on a Friday night. So once a month, we have these dances where everybody can hang out and just have a good time. I'll be honest, it's my most favorite night of the
Is it?
I volunteer, like none of us are paid when we do this. And people are like, oh, you take on so much. And I'm like, you have no idea like how much this gives me as well to be at those dances because being in a room full of unconditional love is there's nothing like that in this world. It really makes you step back and reevaluate like what's important in life for sure.
And it reminds me, I used to volunteer at this place in Michigan called the Justin Center. And that's where once a month I would go on a Friday so the caregivers could drop their kids off and they could go out for whatever. It was 4 hours. So they got 4 hours to do whatever they wanted. And it was for differently able children. And I'm telling you, the reason he loved having me there, because I am the biggest kid. I mean, I had so much fun.
That's
And I
sweet.
agree with you. It is like the most fun you can have because here I am, this adult with grown children, but I'm acting like a big kid and nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
No,
So
there's no judgment
no
at all.
judgment.
Yeah.
Yes. And I love that they had the swing, because there are some kids that just love the swing. That was the most popular, the swing. Now I'm gonna volunteer for a program called Best Buddies.
A lot of universities around Canada have best buddies. In fact, Caitlin, they had best buddies in her high school, and the girl that was her best buddy, so she lives like an hour and a half away from us now. Will come once a month and take Caitlin out for the day. Still, like what 10 years later, probably longer because she was Caitlin's best buddy. I think in grade 9 or 10, so like 10 years ago. So every month she comes, and now Laurier, the university, has a best buddies program. So our friends for kindness friends are now buddies with Laurier friends, which is great because our most of our friends are university age. So it's like they're hanging out with kids. They're not kids or adults, but they're kids to me because they're my kids. But so these adults who are in their 20s are now hanging out with individuals their age. So they're doing age appropriate activities with them, right? So and it gives them more opportunity to get out to do.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Talk about having the audacity to be kind. This young lady who you said you see her best buddy and now she's an hour away and she still comes
Yeah.
to see her and to be with her. And that is why I started this is because we have to show kindness. There is kindness in the world. So you talked about the party, right?
Yeah.
And that everyone's invited. And I have this saying that I don't want to just be invited. I want to be welcomed.
Everybody's welcome. Like that's my
Yes.
whole life mission has been to make the world more accepting and inclusive. But um what I love is how the community really, like, messages me every day. I get messages, "I'm coming back to the unbirthday this year. I'm gonna volunteer at the unbirthday. How can I help? What can I do? Can I bring this to the unbirthday? Can I do that?" Yes, I want all of this
Yeah.
because this is the point. The point is I want the community to embrace everyone. Like, and it's not just our friends with disabilities, there's all kinds of marginalized individuals in our community, and I want everybody to have a safe and inclusive and welcoming space for them to just be celebrated and just to be included and have a sense of belonging. Yeah.
Nicole. And that again, that's what drew me to you. And it's hard to find someone who has that. I won't say it's hard because as I've been doing this podcast, I've learned that kindness is not rare. It's just that the evilness and the rudeness and the nastiness seems to get more airtime.
Yeah. And it's just echo chambers, mom mentality. And it's so easy for people because they prey on the people that are struggling, like the blue collars that, can't afford the groceries or giving all their money to, groceries and gas and taxes and stuff. And when you're struggling and somebody's telling you, well, I'm going to make this easier for you. I'm going to put more money in your pocket. I'm going to make your life easier, even if it's going to be in this way that is not acceptable. People believe that. And I can see why. And I really try to, when I advocate, I really try to not get my back up when it comes to all the echo chamber, mom mentality type of thinking, because I know where they're coming from. I get it. And I try to remind people, I'm struggling too. Like, just because I'm doesn't mean I'm poor. Like, trust me, like I don't want to spend $500 on groceries. I understand where you're coming from. But if we don't take care of our weakest link in the community, then and we leave them behind, then it's just going to cost you more money. And you're gonna have more issues. And you're gonna have and you could be the next person that has that food insecurity with your family and need that meal. Right? Or, more crime in the neighborhood because we didn't take care of them. So now they're desperate to get that meal or the money, right? If we take care of everybody, then the systems work better and we have safer neighborhoods and we have more cooperation and collaboration, right?
I love that. And you made a good point. I didn't even think about it this way, Nicole, is that if if you have a chain and there's one weak link, it's gonna affect everyone.
It does.
So if you're someone who I'm the last link on the chain, I'm the weak link. I can't afford my groceries. I can't afford healthcare, so I get sick. And all of a sudden my sickness, my illness affects the next link on the chain and that affects the next. So it does impact everyone.
And we have a lot of unhoused individuals now because they can't afford rent anymore and groceries. It's not because don't get me wrong, there's mental health issues as well, obviously, but a lot of our unhoused issues is because they can't afford rent, but they still are good people. They're all good people, but they're still working and they still have like life, but they just can't afford that $4,000 a month rent anymore, right? And I'm I really believe it takes a community to build one. We all need to work together and every city has helpers. Everybody has cities that wants to volunteer. I need to do something more with my life. Where can I help in our city? Can I give out meals at the blessing center? Or can I be the best buddy for this individual? Or we have helpers. Every city has them. So even if the government is like kind of our barriers to getting that support. We have helpers and we have organizations in every city that we can collaborate with to help the weakest link. And that's our community. Our community are those people that are helping the underprivileged people
Right.
that are making it better for us to have a healthier society.
Right.
And, my goal is to have that government to say, hey, I don't want you to pay and change everything, but I want you to partner with us
Right.
to help build that community, right? So we
Yeah.
can take care of everybody.
Nicole, I have the sense that you are not someone that thinks us and them,
Never.
that group think of us and them. So, how would you speak to someone else who does? So, if you have an alternate Nicole sitting next to you that thinks, no, I'm not helping them, that's not going to do me any good, what would you say to that person?
Lesson number one, you can't change people's minds. You can get them to listen to you and maybe they'll change. Here's what I've learned. Okay, I'm gonna summarize.
Go ahead.
And I learned this actually more during the pandemic. There's a lot of people that I don't like per se. It's not that I don't like people, but I don't like who they stand for. And those are the people you're talking about. Like the other Nicole sitting beside me, I don't like what they say and I don't like how they treat other people.
Yeah.
Right. But then other people think they're great, like they're wonderful and I may see good things that this other Nicole is doing in society, but I still don't like this person because I've seen a lot of other things that I don't agree with. What I learned in the pandemic, especially the pandemic, when we really started to do this he, them, or you, them, me type of mentality, it was it doesn't make the person a bad person, right? Just because the other Nicole and I have completely different values, that's the difference. It's our values aren't aligning. And when people's values don't align, you don't get along with them as much, or you create boundaries. So I always try to advocate in a way of putting myself in their shoes, saying, I understand why you feel like this, or understand that but here's why I need you to listen to me and understand why I feel the way and it works most times. I do a lot of Facebook posts that my husband is like, "Oh, you're gonna get a lot of hate for this, right?" And I never do. Like, I think maybe once I got one comment, and I've written some controversy stuff about like, "Hey, this is why I'm not playing in the sandbox with you guys because of this, right?" But I understand, like, I remember one post that we had a big truckers convoy up in Ottawa, and it was divisive, right? And I remember saying, I understand where you're coming from. It's a slippery slope when governments start telling us what we can and cannot do and put in our bodies or whatever that looks like. But here's the reason why I'm on this. I'm standing on here because I have a daughter that's disabled and needs to go back out in our community and has a heart defect and all these other things that I need her to be safe, right? And it got shared probably 1900 times and I had not one single negative comment
Nah,
because I didn't attack them.
you didn't attack.
I didn't say you are wrong and I am right.
Mhm.
We are both right, but we both need to compromise and figure out how to make this work together because this you're right and I'm right. It's just going to be divisive. It's going to cause hate, and nobody's going to win in that situation, right?
We're divisive. Now that division is making everyone focus on the exterior and not the fact that we're all human beings.
Agree.
Right. And which is why I'm doing this podcast to say, hey, I'm going to push against all this negativity that's being pushed out there and say, there are kind people like you in the world.
Have all kinds of friends who are all doing incredible, world changing things all around the world, and we are out here, and even the people that we think aren't in that group think they're doing good things too. But they're also causing a lot of harm as well, and I can understand that,
Right.
and I get that, and I really think that everybody should just needs to step back and just say, I feel this because, or I am scared. I really think it's because we don't talk in feeling words, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't say like I'm scared or I'm worried or I'm anxious about this or I'm this. And when we don't use feeling words, anger seems to be that way of communication, right? Even if I'm not angry, we reflect anger rather than because we lack what we're actually feeling,
Mhm.
right? So somebody might be anxious and somebody might be scared, but their words are angry,
Mm.
right? And then when people speak in anger, it gets the other person's back up
Mm.
and gets them defensive. And once you get into that state, it becomes that battle of me versus you, right? And I wish we would acknowledge that you're not angry, you're anxious and you're scared, and I can work with that. But when you're angry at me, that's scary and I can't work with that, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's like so many multiple layers to
Mhm.
all of this. And the main feelings are anger. And I think that's what's getting everybody's back up and making it harder to communicate with people. Yeah. You're insecure, you're scared,
Yeah.
you're anxious about how you're gonna pay the bills or if you lose your job, like, there's so many different layers, and if you are worried about losing your job, I can guarantee it's not the immigrants, it's because you don't feel secure and safe in the place that you're working, and there's so many factors to that, and I get that too in this day and age, right? But yeah, I think it's the anxiety and that fear that is really getting, and I think honestly, the governments that you're talking about are playing on those fears and making it to making and twisting that to make it look as like you should be angry rather than let's be afraid. And we have all these Facebook groups or Instagram groups, and people are like they're feeding into that. They're like they're validating the insecurities and the fears and the untruths, I guess.
Coming back to the friends for kindness, when I think about it, I'm surprised that there hasn't been something else of that magnitude already. Now that you've done it, do you see other organizations popping up?
No, I've had a lot of people want to start it, and I'm not against that. I mean, I think the more friends for kindness, that's a lot sometimes. And I can see where the barriers are with that because there's a lot of advocating when you have an organization that caters to marginalized individuals in your community. And with all the things we've just talked about, the marginalized community, I think to summarize it better is that every time, that hate is spewed or that fear is incited, we go back 40 years in human rights, and we're already so far behind when it comes to disability rights or, LGBTQ rights or Black matters, all of this stuff. I think we're so far behind in human rights that the farther we go back in human, it's so much harder to catch back up again, right? And so I think the problem with people not starting Friends for Kindness is that there's a lot of advocating like, why should I donate money for this, right? Or they donate it because they like, oh, look at the cute person that has a disability, right? My goal is more than just let's put a party on for them. My goal is to how can we make them a part of our community without having just the on birthday party? How can we make that inclusive, accepting community happen without it being so much effort?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
So I think there's a lot of barriers when people are like, yeah, I'll help you. With organizing it is a whole different level because there is a lot of advocating involved as to the purpose of the inclusion piece, right? Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yeah, it
Okay.
does. It does.
But funny, like 10 years ago, I would have thought Caitlin, my daughter, would have needed 24 hours.
Mhm.
There, she would have. She can't cook.
Mhm.
She doesn't read or write. She doesn't really have stranger danger or safety.
Mhm.
But technology is so impressive now. So now she has Facebook and texted me because she uses voice to text. She doesn't have to know how to type anything, right? So she just messages me all the time. Sometimes it doesn't pick up her words correctly, and I'm like, "What is she trying to say right now?" But so she uses that. We don't need a key because she can't turn a key. It's a little bit too hard for her. We have keypads to get in and out of the house. We have vacuums that are Roombas that clean houses. We have smart plugs so we could turn off appliances. We have cameras. We have so much technology that I really don't think she needs support 24/7 because of technology. I think technology could be her support.
Mhm.
And my goal one day is to have a co-housing model where we have a place that's not just putting all these individual disabilities in one room together, one house together. Let's get the senior who's now a widow, doesn't want to live on her own anymore.
Yeah.
Let's get the university students who, just moved away from home for the first time and would love like community around them. Let's get the individual who can't afford $4,000 rent, but it can have more affordable housing. Let's put all the community under one roof where they can have a common area to watch movies together or eat a meal together, but also have their own apartment if they want time by themselves, right?
But again, he has to interview people to see if they can qualify to be completely independent, and if they're not, they could have a co-sharing
Yeah, that's
situation.
my goal.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'd get away from those group homes, institutionalized settings.
Yeah.
I'll just bring my daughter down and she'd be miserable.
Yeah.
She'd be like, nobody would socialize with her and she wouldn't get to pick her roommates. And like, I can't imagine being forced to live with three people that I don't like because the government's telling me this is where I'm living. Not happening. But I feel like if we had like a co-housing community, we would support all kinds of different communities, not just those with disabilities.
That and the you said about elderly, someone who's elderly.
That doesn't wanna be in a retirement home because they're fine, but they just are widowed and they're a bit lonely, right? So now you've got a community to hang out with, right?
We know that the older you get, isolation actually contributes to the dementia and the Alzheimer's. So
Yeah.
to have someone around that you can help
Yeah.
with.
There are models that exist in this category. I'm not sure how many of these models house individuals with disabilities. Again, my community is always kind of ignored or they just, avoid it. But I would love to bring that in and put my daughter and so her friends in that kind of a community for sure.
I think that is awesome, and I know that I was talking to the one thing I did wanna talk about with the circle of friends, it's online,
Yes.
it's via Zoom. Is there a cap on how many people can join? Sure.
Not really a cap, but
Okay.
I mean, we try to keep it manageable because we want everybody to have a chance in 1 hour to be able to speak and have a and participate, right?
Okay.
If it got bigger, I mean, during COVID, we had 3 rooms. So we had like the elementary age, the
Okay.
high school age, and the adults. And then once the pandemic ended, we found the younger kids went back to their extracurricular. So it's just the adults now. But the more people we have, they would just make it more rooms, right? For them to hang out in.
So let's talk about funds because, I want it when this podcast goes out with a limited number of people that listen to it, but eventually we'll get there.
Yeah.
I want people to know how to donate
Yeah.
and if they want to donate. So you have a Facebook page or
We do. We have a website too.
okay.
Our website is www.friends, the number 4kindness.com. So it's the number four, friends. So Friends for Kindness, the name is because when we did the birthday cards in 2018, it was kindness for Caitlin.
Ah,
But then it's not about Caitlin anymore. It's about all our friends. So we changed kindness for Caitlin to friends for kindness.
okay.
So that's why it's kind of similar. And if you look at our logo, it's like two people with two different colors. That's the Williams syndrome colors. But if you actually look at the people, they're a K and a backwards K. So it looks like kindness for Caitlin, but it was actually friends for kindness. So our logo actually represents our beginnings of kindness for
Okay.
Caitlin.
Oh,
It would turn the K to the people. Yeah, so the Facebook page is the same. I think it's Friends for Kind. If you type in Friends for Kindness, it should pop up
okay.
though. We have Instagram and
Um,
Facebook. That's it. Just Instagram, Facebook. And then we have our website. Everything about us is on our
mm,
website for sure.
what's one thing you want people to know about Williams syndrome,
Yeah.
about Friends for Kindness, and about being a child that's differently able?
Um, so Williams syndrome. Okay, so I can tell you what Williams syndrome is missing chromosome 7. It's the elasticity gene. Again, there's a lot of a spectrum of cognitive abilities. Some are, can read or write and are more independent. Others are not. Caitlin is on the lower cognitive side,
Mhm.
but all of them are very highly social. It's actually called like a nickname the happy syndrome because they're all so happy.
Oh,
I don't know, I see my daughter not so happy to be honest, but they are out public, like, they're very social and happy and love everybody, and, when Caitlin was younger, they're no one to hug, so I had to, like, put, like, the hand up saying, "This is who we can hug and who we can't," because she would go up to a stranger and hug them. There's no, like, buffer as to what she'll say. Um, a lot of them are musically gifted, like, they have a perfect tone. Caitlin, I think, is the only individual with Williams syndrome that has no musical stuff, but she thinks she does, and makes me listen to those musical gifts all the time. For Friends for Kindness, I think our goals have changed over the year from let's celebrate people to how do we make them a part of our community? How do we give them a sense of belonging? And how do we educate the community to see the abilities of our friends? And then the last one was when you get diagnosis, it's devastating, no matter what the diagnosis is. When you find out your child's gonna have hardships in life, you can't really celebrate that because and it's hard. Like the beginning, it's hard because there's a lot to navigate your relationships with your partner or your other kids. That child needs a lot of attention. So your other kids may feel like neglected because you have no choice but to put your so there's balance, right? Like you have to balance that attention to the other kids, a lot of praise to the kids, schedule in a lot of family time. Really make sure you have date nights and focus on your relationships um, and if it doesn't work, don't be so hard on yourselves because it's hard work. Feel all the emotions, the negatives. I facilitate a group right now of parents who have adult children with disabilities so that we have a safe space to complain and cry and do whatever we need because I feel like there's two roles that I have right now. I'm Caitlin's mom and I'm Caitlin's caregiver.
mm.
I love being her mom, right? Like, being a mom is cool, like, we do fun things, I have so much I'm proud of her in so many levels, like, all the typical mom stuff. I have to take care of her like a mom. The caregiver, not so happy with that job a lot of the times. I don't want to have to make lunch every day for my adult child or shower her or make sure she has a babysitter so I can go on a vacation or all the things that you would do for a 5-year-old, I have to do for my 25-year-old for the rest of her life. I don't want to retire with my 25-year-old. I want her to have her own life before I die so that if I die, she's not in crisis going into a whole new life. These are worries that parents have that have children with diagnoses. But I will say there are so many blessings on this journey that will help you become your authentic self. You are going to learn resilience. You are going to learn how to negotiate. You're going to learn how to navigate. You're going to learn how to think outside the box. You are going to learn how um, to feel proud of every milestone that you wouldn't even have think was something a big deal. Like, there's something you're like, "Oh, great, you wrote a letter," but if your child's writing that letter at age 16 for the first time, like, you're gonna celebrate way more things that you would probably take for granted with your other children. There are a lot of blessings in this journey. Nothing I've done in my life in my 50 years has been planned because I have a child with a diagnosis. I always wanted to be like a police officer or a lawyer, and I had couldn't work for a while because I had to take care of needs, and then I became a therapist so I could help support other families, and then I'm an advocate. And I'm going to say the hardest part of this is advocacy.
Mm,
Because I used to think I was an advocate because I would stand up for what I believed in, but, everybody standing beside me usually believed in the same thing I did because we were like advocacy is actually having to challenge somebody and say that you need something for human rights, and the person in front of you doesn't agree with you. They're the ones that are going to be your barrier. They're gonna make you feel bad about yourself. They're gonna make you think you're the problem. They're gonna think that you're being unrealistic and selfish because you are asking for what you were asking for, and I want families to know that you are not the bad person. You are your child's voice and you are standing up for human rights. You are standing up for what they deserve. You are standing up for an accepting and inclusive life. And they deserve that. Everybody deserves a sense of belonging. So when it gets hard, and I've cried many tears over the years, um, I will say just keep going because one day it will be worth it for your child. Your child's going to see that gain. Even if you don't in your lifetime, your child will hopefully one day, right? However, there's 2 rules. That's the one what might facilitate this. We swear, we cry, we do it all. Because if I was to say to somebody that doesn't understand my world, they think I'm complaining and swearing about my role as a parent. Like, what kind of parent says that about their daughter? Right. The parent isn't saying this. The caregiver is saying this, right? So it's a safe space for caregivers to cry and swear and say, I really hate this and not be judged because it's not a job that everybody has was given it without a choice, right? So many jobs that I mean, I love working. I know people don't say that often, but I do. I have a lot to contribute and it keeps me feeling satisfied when I have things to do. And working is that. But there was so many years I couldn't work. And there was so many years that I had to pass up on some really great jobs because of Caitlin's needs and having to go to doctors and appointments and or just not being able to go to school. And there's a lot of sacrifice, even vacations, like having to have a babysitter for her to come so I can go on vacation, or who's going to watch her do this, or if I go in the morning before she goes to program, who's getting her up to get her ready, and all this. There's so much sacrifice as a parent of a child with a diagnosis, and you know, I don't recognize it all the time because it's routine, yeah, right? But it's still there. And sometimes it does affect me having my own needs fulfilled. So it's just yeah, it's just there's a lot of sacrifice. So if there's moms out there complaining and swearing and whatever they want to do, sort of swear. But it's because that sacrifice can take its toll sometimes.
and be empathetic.
Yeah.
Yes. One thing I think is gonna have to be a tagline or something besides my have the audacity to be kind is you never know what chapter someone's life is in when you
100%. Yeah.
you never know. They could be in a very bad chapter. Just be kind. Just be kind. Just okay, I'm gonna
I agree.
yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
yeah. Oh, that's why I love the whole Friends for Kindness and the kindness. Oh, this is the heart of
I
it.
like
This is
that.
the
You
heart.
love it.
Yes, I
And
love it.
I love when people believe in our vision and our mission because it means that they will like carry that and do a little bit. Like you said, I want to be a best buddy.
Yeah.
You taking some of our mission and vision, even though you didn't learn that from us, but your heart has that same sense of inclusive and acceptance. Right?
Yes, yes.
That's the way it sounds. Yeah,
Absolutely. So we'll have to definitely give a shout out to Lionel for introducing
yeah,
us.
for sure.
Talk about somebody who has such a beautiful heart and a beautiful
I
soul. I
agree.
mean, this man is just, and he is the most supportive person. You would think the most supportive person of my channel would be my husband and kids.
Yeah.
No, it's Lionel.
Yeah. I remember when he told me about you, and I
Yeah.
was so excited. I need you to see this.
He is so supportive. So shout out to Lionel. And I want to thank you. I'm looking forward to our event tonight.
Thank
This is going to
you.
be fun again. And I think what I'm looking forward to the most is feeling the energy.
Yeah, oh,
Because,
still the energy.
yeah, I
My
remember.
friend Nathan and my son Liam, they're gonna be if you like country, my man Nathan,
Okay.
he'll get the country playing.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
energy that I'm looking forward to because I tell people my name Felicia means happy or laughter. So Nicole Calendar, I have really enjoyed this interview.
Thank
For you that are listening, this is not the end because Nicole and I are going to meet tonight at one of the parties tonight at
you.
7 p.m. Right?
Yeah.
Yes, at the dance at 7 p.m. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'll probably add some more content in, but I am so glad we got to meet. I
Me
had to
too.
cross an international border, but living in Detroit, that's not a big deal for us. But sometimes I like to say it just because it does.
So you still have to drive a few hours into
Yeah,
Canada.
yeah. So it's another country, but like, yeah, it's Canada.
We let everybody in.
Exactly. So I have enjoyed this, and again, I'm looking forward to tonight. I am definitely going to put the website on my show notes because I want people to donate because I
Yeah.
really want this to continue and to spread. Let it spread. Let it be like a virus, but a good virus. Very good viruses. Maybe not. But let it spread. Right. I don't know. They're a very good virus. I don't know. Viruses are bad, but let it be good. And the best of luck to you,
Thank
to
you.
your daughter, to your family,
Thank you
actually.
for letting me come on and talk about kindness and charity.
We have to continue this. We have to continue to interview people like you who have the audacity to be kind. Thank you, Nicole. A note to my listeners. The end of this recording was cut off due to technical difficulties. However, I enjoyed my conversation with Nicole and I had a wonderful time. Let's just say I will be going back as I've met a new friend and her name is Caitlin. If you know someone who is the parent or caregiver of someone who is differently able, reach out. Let them know that you're there to help. Maybe you can do a load of laundry or even just watch their loved one as they go outside to get a breath of fresh air. This small gesture can mean the world to someone like Nicole. An update on Nicole Calendar. As of the airing of this episode, Nicole is now candidate for Ward 4 City Councillor in the province of Bradford, Ontario, Canada. Thank you for allowing me to occupy space in your day. If this episode resonated with you, like, subscribe, and share. And please have the audacity to be kind. Until next time.